Hey guys, it's Traveling Taylor, and as is the holiday season, I wanted to take the time to sort of review my 2019 and talk about the places that I was able to visit this year and the experiences that I was able to have as a digital nomad. So as you know, I talk a lot about the digital nomad life and working online, and that lifestyle has really allowed me to visit a lot of really awesome places while I can still earn an income. So for some fast stats, in 2019, I visited 11 different countries and I completed 9 house sits for a total of 168 days doing house sitting. So you might also know that one of the ways that I travel is via house sitting, and so I was actually able to take a good amount of time looking after other people's homes and their pets. I didn't actually make a stat on how many pets I watched this year, but a lot of cats and dogs, and really getting to enjoy that time with them. So the 11 different countries that I visited in 2019 were Australia. So I was in Sydney and Melbourne and Townsville in January of this year. And then I went back to New Zealand, where I actually spent most of 2018. I went back and I spent most of my time in Wellington during that visit back into New Zealand. I went to Bali for a week. I went to Seoul, South Korea for a month and had a really amazing time with Hacker Paradise there. Then I spent a week in Phuket, Thailand. Then I traveled to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, where I spent 6 weeks doing a house sit there. And then after Ho Chi Minh, that was kind of the end of my Eastern Hemisphere, Asia. I went to Bangkok for just a few days because then from there I took a flight to London. And then I spent quite a bit of time in the UK, probably about I think 3 or 4 weeks total. I was in London and Oxford, and then I've traveled up to Edinburgh, Scotland for the Edinburgh Fringe Fest, which I'm going back to in 2020, and I'm really excited. So maybe I will do a video on visiting Fringe because it is crazy, and it probably took me that whole first trip just to figure out what I was doing there. So I'm excited to go back. After Edinburgh, I then flew to Budapest and spent a few days there in Hungary. From there, I got a last minute house sit in Lyon, France. So it was my first time visiting someplace outside of Paris. Absolutely love France, and Lyon was a really great city to visit. From there, I had my last house sit in Switzerland. So I spent about 10 days in Switzerland, which was absolutely gorgeous. And then from there, I flew back to the United States and went to New York City and then to Denver and then back home to Fort Worth, Texas, where I've been for the holidays. So those were the 11 different countries that I visited. And in some countries, I went to multiple cities. So I was moving around a little bit more. But I also just wanted to kind of take a second to not just think about the places that I went, because it's really easy just to make a list, but to also think through what were some of my favorite experiences. So starting earlier in the year, actually back in February, a big reason why I went back to New Zealand was my mom came over to visit for her birthday, and we toured around for about a week on the South Island, which is my absolute favorite. If you haven't checked out my video, I do have a video on what to do in the New Zealand South Island. That was definitely a memorable experience, getting to show my mom this country that I lived in for almost a year at that point, and to actually get the opportunity to go back and see some of my favorite places like Mount Cook National Park, going down to Wanaka and Queenstown, and just some of the more beautiful locations of New Zealand. So that was really fun. Also, since I've been back home for a little bit, people keep asking me, where was your favorite place? Where was your favorite place to go while you were traveling? Which is such a hard question to narrow down because they each have their, finer points to them. But I would definitely say Seoul, South Korea really surprised me about how much I actually loved it. So I would say of all the countries in Asia I went to, South Korea was my favorite. And part of that was because I was with Hacker Paradise. which is a company that organizes trips for digital nomads. So I was there with a lot of other people just like me, doing the same thing that I was doing. So I was around my community and getting to explore this really amazing city. And we also had Korean buddies while we were there, so I really got to know a lot more about the culture and just their way of life and how it's different from, the ways of life that I am familiar with. So I really, really loved my Hacker Paradise trip to Seoul, and hopefully in 2020 I will get to take a couple more of those trips. So another one of my favorite things from this last year was actually a couple of the books that I read. So yes, my travel and my experiences are a big part of that, but along the way I pick up books, I hear about different things. There's something about being in different countries where different things are kind of going viral that you pick up on them. So one of the book series I read was the You Are a Badass series by Jen Sincero. I actually have one of her books right here. I did a lot of money mindset work this 2019, and so her books were really good. And so if you're looking to just kind of get some additional inspiration, I definitely recommend reading the You Are a Badass series by Jen Sincero. And then another really cool thing about the year was just being able to house sit in so many different countries. I house sat in Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, Switzerland, France, and then back in the US. I actually had 2 house sits just in Denver, and I will be going back to New York City in January for a house sit there. So it's just a really cool way to travel and see different areas and live more like a local. So when I was in Vietnam, for example, I wasn't in like District 1. I wasn't right in the middle of everything. I was actually in District 2. And I was house sitting for a couple that taught at the international school. And so they lived in a community. There were kids playing in like the little alleyway right by their house. And I got to, just like walk around and like see how the people in that community, not in like the super touristy area, actually lived their day-to-day life. And that is really why I house sit, and that is why I travel. And so that was a really cool experience just to see how people live in different types of countries. So I don't know exactly where I'm going in 2020 yet, but I am looking forward to having new experiences. And then another highlight of my year was I actually went with my sister to New York City. She met me there when I got back home, and we got to tour and walk around and see Moulin Rouge on Broadway, which was... we had bought tickets a year in advance, so I'd been waiting a year to see it, and my favorite Broadway actor, Aaron Tveit, is playing Christian, and so I was very excited to finally get to see him live, and so that was definitely a highlight of my year, and I'm excited to go back to New York and try to win tickets and see if I can see it again. And then the other thing is I've made a couple of videos on away travel, and so my other favorite thing from 2019 is just all of my away luggage that I purchased. This is the mini suitcase. I just got it in the mail and it is adorable and I'm really excited. But just in general, just getting new luggage that isn't going to break on me, hopefully, and a new backpack, and just sort of being able to replace a lot of the things that I've been using for 2 years straight. They did great. They held up really well. But when you're using something every day, that you tend to go through it a little bit faster. So that is my 2019 in review. Those are the places I went. Those are the things that I did. And I'm excited to see what I get to do for 2020. So thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations of places to go, I'm starting to kind of make my list, my wish list of where I want to travel to and house sits I want to do. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions. And if you want to know more about the digital nomad lifestyle, please be sure to subscribe. I come out with new videos every Tuesday. I will see you next year.